Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to this edition of an offshoot of the Prop Queen Pod. Alongside myself is mid-major Matt. You know him, and he comes on the show all the time, except recently, of course, because he's had some other obligations. But that's why we're doing this. I'm going to Yankees Red Sox tonight, so I could probably use a play or two in that, Matt.
Yeah, it's always fun when you're at a game and you can sweat something out, preferably an over, not an under, because unders are torture to watch.
I know. And everyone gets mad at me when they ask me, hey, what's your best bet in the game today? And I'm sitting at Billy's and I'm like, yeah, under strikeouts for X. And they're like, no, thank you. I'm good. Whatever. Winners are winners. And that's why we bet, because if your team doesn't win, then at least you win your bets. So let's talk about one of the bets that you like today, Matt. We have a lot of strikeout props to get to, and the one that we didn't really agree on, because there's other two that we did agree on, but this one, you like Hayden Birdsong over 4.5 strikeouts. I was a little iffy on it, so try to sell me.
Yeah, Hayden Birdsong is making his fourth start of the season. They started him out in the bullpen, and then they've kind of eased him over. And so far, he's been pretty good. If you look at his 3 starts so far, he had 5 in Miami, he had 6 in Detroit, and he had 4 at home against Kansas City. And look, Atlanta had a stretch where they went under a lot, but now they're starting to go over. This is a long road trip from Atlanta, coming off that really disgusting loss yesterday. Birdsong's giving them about 5 innings plus for the Giants. And so, look, I think he has really nasty stuff. He had 5 in Atlanta last year as a starting pitcher. And so when you're going to give me a 4.5 here with reasonable juice, I'm going to take the over and hope that the Braves are a little hungover after the long trip. Remember, they played yesterday, so there's no rest exactly. They did get to the West Coast early last night, but still, quick turnaround here. West Coast trip, very good pitcher. I'm going to take the over here.
Atlanta's so annoying because last year they were an over team for sure. This year, it's very hit or miss on them, no pun intended.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're kind of riding streaks. Some of the teams we'll talk about on this podcast are very streaky, where they go over a bunch, then they go under a bunch. And this is the perfect team for that. They had an understretch. Now they're starting to skew a little bit over. So I'm going to take a shot and hope that there's a little bit of a hangover here for the Braves.
These are the 2 props that Matt and I agree on. Typically, when Matt and I do agree, we go 500 on 2 props, or we get profitable on 3 props, or we hit 1 prop that we love. I would say the number 1 prop of the day for both of us has to be Bailey Ober. At least it is for me to go under 4.5 strikeouts, because he's getting the Jays. The Blue Jays are an under or nothing team. Ober's faced 3 low K rate lineups this year, went under in all 3 of those starts. Righties are averaging just about 4 strikeouts a game against Toronto. 7 of the last 10 righties have gone under 4.5 strikeouts against the Blue Jays. Matt, did I leave anything out as to why you like over under?
No, I mean, if you look at what Ober's done lately, his last 4 starts, 4 strikeouts at Seattle, 3 at home against Kansas City, 3 at home against Cleveland. Both of those are understandable. And then 3 in Baltimore. Like, the Orioles are free swinging, and he only got 3 strikeouts there. And look, Toronto's got a really good high contact lineup. If you look at some of the guys that they've seen as of late, I mean, Mick Abel looked tremendous against Pittsburgh. He went to Toronto. They had 2 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings. So I just think this is a really good spot for an under here, because Toronto is in one of those stretches where they're not striking out a lot.
Kyle Hendricks over 3.5 strikeouts. Pretty heavy juice at -148. You're the one that kind of had this one catch my eye and made me go double check it again. Why'd you automatically like Kyle Hendricks over 3.5?
So it's crazy, because if you had said last year that I would ever take an over on Kyle Hendricks, I'd say you're insane, because he was one of those guys that always got 2.5 and 3.5, and he ended up with 3. So it's pretty crazy, especially if you look at the start of his season. He has not gotten a lot of strikeouts, but you look at the last couple. He had 6 at Cleveland. That's really good. He had 5 at home against Miami. He had 4 in San Diego. 4 in San Diego is like 9 in other places. He had 5 at home against the Baltimore Orioles. And look, the Mariners are back to their free swinging ways. You look at some of the recent righties. Eflin had 7. Sugano had 5. Chris Paddock had 10. That's a lot. Zebby Matthews had 7. Gusto had 6. McCullers had 8. So the Seattle team is slowly skewing back to the team we had last year that couldn't make any sort of contact. They're at 4.6 strikeouts per game against right-handed starting pitchers. So I'll take a shot here. Hendricks, the other good thing about Hendricks is Look how long he's going. 5 2/3, 6, 5 2/3, 6, 5, 7 2/3. So like you're going to get plenty of opportunities in at trying to get these 4 strikeouts.
Talk about a team that you're trying to just ride the wave. That's the Seattle Mariners. They started out low key rate last year. Remember, this was a Mariners lineup that last season, started low K rate to start this year. Last year, they were a team that had one of the highest K rates in baseball history. They start this year off pretty slow, not striking out much, and now they're starting to a little bit, but this 3.5 number just feels too low for how the Mariners have been striking out recently. I do have some other strikeout props because these weren't necessarily on our card. They stood out to me though, Matt, and I'm going to the Yankees-Red Sox game tonight, so I was looking at Yankees-Red Sox, but they both were intriguing. The Yankees are averaging 5 strikeouts a game. Walker Buehler is over 4.5 strikeouts for his prop is something that I would look at. 6 of the last 10 righties went over 4.5 against the Yankees. And Buehler did have a good outing against the Yankees in the World Series, punched out 5. If it was a 5.5, I would stay away. 4.5 against the Yankees seems kind of intriguing.
I'm all over the place on kind of the Yankees. I haven't quite figured them out yet. If you look at our spreadsheet, which you can get on the website, I've only played one Yankees K prop and I lost on it. So it's one of those things where since I haven't listen, I think the dog likes it too.
Yeah, she's playing with her Yankees bat. That's what squeaks. It's her favorite toy.
It's just one of those things where I haven't gotten a good feel on the Yankees yet. So I haven't been able to play as many K-props of theirs. Now, if you want to talk about the next one, Will Warren, if I hadn't lost so brutally in that Dodgers game where he strikes out Ohtani twice and then can't get anybody else out, I might have gone that way because we know the Red Sox have a lot of guys in their lineup that strike out a ton. And when you look at like Schwellenbach had 11 and Holmes had 9 and Peralta had 6 and Chad Patrick had 6, I kind of like the Will Warren numbers and I probably would have played him if I didn't lose with him in the last game against the Dodgers. And so I'm like slightly bitter with him right now. But of the two of those, I'd probably lean more towards Warren than Buehler.
Warren, just looking at him, had at least 6 strikeouts in all 3 starts. He's faced a high K rate lineup this year. That's the Red Sox, averaging just over 5 strikeouts a game. Red Sox are a little iffy against righties too. 5 of the last 10 have just gone over. It's more the lefties that have different splits against the Red Sox. But again, just thought that it was worth bringing up. And then when I sent you my long card today, you said, I thought about Colton Gordon. He's a lefty for Houston. His strikeout prop 4.5. Nice value at plus 116. The Guardians, they've got drastic splits. They're averaging just over 6 strikeouts a game against lefty starters. 9 out of the 11 lefties to face the Guardians have gone over their strikeout prop. And yes, that means 5 or more strikeouts as well in those 9 of 11 starts. So what are your thoughts on Colton Gordon?
Yeah, I'm mad at myself that I didn't take Fried's over. But, you and I have this thing about Fried that when we take his over and it's 5.5, he usually gets 5 or 6. And so it becomes a sweat. And obviously he had 7. But yeah, Gordon has only made 4 starts for the Astros and he took advantage of 2 of them. The Rays are a team that struck out a lot against lefties. He had 6 at home and he had 7 at Tampa Bay. 4 against Seattle and 3 against KC aren't necessarily the greatest, but as you said, Cleveland has struggled a lot. Now, here's the one thing that kept me off of it. When you look at the people who have done really well against Cleveland, here's who they are. For the most part, it's Bubic, it's Reagans, it's Rodon, it's Ranger Suarez, it's Tarek Skubal, it's Rodon again, it's Fried. Like it's the legit lefties. The ones that aren't as good, they did all right against. Kershaw had 3, but he's still working his way back. So it was a little bit of a concern that the good lefties are getting over this thing and the not so good lefties aren't. So that's kind of the reason why. Plus 4.5 with the juice heavy to the under means the books are kind of telling us something. I was waiting for it to flip to 3.5 and I don't think it's going to flip at 3.5. Okay.
Sorry, Marley's been barking and crying. Marley, why are you crying? Go lay down. This is my life now. I'm just for everyone to know, I knew Matt and I were only going to be on here for about 10 to 15 minutes. And I said, you know what? This is my test to see if Marley does better out of the crate next to me, blocked off in the kitchen with a crate, like in the gate. But it turns out she does better in the crate, not next to me. Marley, stop it. Okay. Davis Martin, under 3.5 strikeouts. This one also has some juice. But I was looking at it because he's gone under in both his starts against low K rate lineups. Faced Minnesota, got 3. At Kansas City, had 2. 7 of the last 10 righties to face the Royals went under 3.5 strikeouts. Overall this season, right-handers are averaging 3.8 strikeouts a game against the Royals. Again, my only knock on this, he already faced Kansas City within the last month, had 2 strikeouts. Does that mean he goes over the second time around? Because the same thing doesn't always happen twice in a row. But I just did think it was intriguing for the matchup.
Well, and the other thing is Kansas City played a doubleheader yesterday. So we don't know who's going to be in the lineup. Could guys who played twice yesterday be in the lineup tonight? If the bench guys are in the lineup, does that mean more strikeouts? 3.5 is always a wicked number. You could get, 1 or 2 bad umpire calls and then the 2 other strikeouts and then it's 4. So it was an easy pass. For those who haven't watched this before, like doubleheaders, I'm always leery the next day because we don't know what the lineups are going to be for that team.
Yeah, doubleheaders, whether it's day of or the next day, it does take on a little bit of a role. All right, so I won't bet that. Justin Wrobleski over 3.5 strikeouts. The only other one that stood out to me, made just 2 starts this season, 4 strikeouts in both against Washington and the Athletics. But those weren't high carry teams like St. Louis, who 12 overs, 6 unders against the Cards as a lefty, averaging 5 strikeouts a game. 7 of the last 10 lefties to face the Cards went over 3.5 Ks. Again, I know it's a small sample size, but matchup-wise, it looks like it could be intriguing.
This is where potentially maybe you're hoping for a bench lineup after a doubleheader. But once again, it's a doubleheader yesterday for the Cardinals. I don't know who's going to be in. I don't know who's going to be out. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. And it's ironic because usually I'm the person who plays the minor leaguers or the guys who come from the minor leagues. And you're the one who's like, I don't know. There's not enough sample size. So it's ironic that this is on the list. But once again, the doubleheader yesterday is preventing me from playing anything involving Justin.
Lastly, you said that there are 2 pitchers that stood out to you that are relievers, but they have really low K prop numbers, and you realize some people, especially the public, betting the overs, you want to wave the red flag and say no. Who and why?
Well, so it's interesting because first off, DraftKings is usually the only one that puts up the relievers, which is great because, sometimes I think I've hit 1 or 2 of those this year. The Phillies are putting Joe Ross out against the Pirates. Last night, it was overwhelming juice to the under. And then today it's overwhelming juice to the over, which is telling me that the public is betting the over on Joe Ross, which is really interesting because he's only going an inning most starts. And he's never done the starter thing. I mean, he's done it before in his career, but this year he's pretty much a 1-inning guy. And there's a lot of ones. Occasionally he's gone 2 innings. He had 3 strikeouts in 2 innings in Colorado last month. But for the most part, there's a lot of 1s and 0s. So I'm really interested to see why people are betting the over 1.5 for Joe Ross when he might only go an inning for the Phillies. And then the other guy, I actually took the over his 1.5, one of his other starts, and he went over that. Paxton Schultz, who has really good stuff. He might go 2 innings in this game, but it's a game on the road in Minnesota. His number's 2.5. And Minnesota, as we've talked about before on this podcast, they're a team that does struggle a little bit against lefties, but the 2.5 number, that means you've got to get 3 strikeouts. And if he potentially only goes 1 inning, you would need every batter to strike out. Now, it's possible. As I said, he's got really good stuff, but you would need that second inning potentially to go over the 2.5 here. If it was 1.5, I would have recommended it. I would have played it. But at 2.5, I'm a little scared of it, despite the fact Minnesota strikes out a lot against lefties.
I feel like I struck out a lot during this show because Marley cried, I would say, for half of it, actually. And now that we are done with all the K props that stood out to us, she has decided to lay back down and eat her bone. Massive L for me to start the day.
It's the information that counts.
I know. I feel like I have been just so out of it this entire segment, so I apologize, but we gave really good info. Matt's been in it. I'm out of it, but I'm reading you and telling you what I think is still good bets. I'm just not entertaining right now. I'm a horrible entertainer and mother. She's going in the crate from now on. She completely failed. Do you have pets?
Well, my family has a dog. I've been around dogs my whole life, but I do not want to have one personally.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's fun. I don't regret any of it. And I never regret having mid-major Matt coming on here and giving out strikeout props. Did you like any outs props or hits allowed or runs allowed props today?
So no, I was close. I almost played Kyle Hendricks's outs over, but I don't like loading up too much on one outcome. So if I take the outs over on Kyle Hendricks and his strikeouts over, now I'm asking him to do a lot. I'm done with hits allowed. I had the hits allowed over for Landon Knack yesterday, and Landon had 4 hits allowed. It was 4.5, and he had a bazillion walks. So every time I take a hits allowed over, that guy has a ton of walks. So I'm done for now. well. The key for being a good bettor here is to kind of realize when you're not doing very well in a certain thing and move on to others. So no more hits allowed for me. And the outs, Corbin's so interesting today, by the way, going up against his former team. Part of me thinks he's going to have an awesome outing against the Nationals because the Nats aren't as good against lefties, but part of me thinks like they know what's coming and he's going to get destroyed. Plus a little bit of weather in the area, possibility of some rain, which could delay things a little bit. So that was a little bit of a worry too.
Anything that stand out this weekend for you, but like just on a quick glance matchup wise?
Look, I'm trying to see here. I mean, how funny is it the Rockies are now an under team when it comes to strikeouts? The Rockies have gone under in 6 straight K props.
But that's also the book potentially booking it too high.
It is. 3 of those were under 6.5. There was an under 7.5, an under 5.5, and under 4.5. Senga's 6.5 tonight, but I looked. I'm pretty sure Senga has not pitched in Coors Field yet, so that's always scary.
And it's a back-to-back. He just pitched against the Rockies.
Right. And that's the other thing, too. Although the Rockies have horrendous numbers against Senga in his career, but I think the other start was also in New York. So, that was a little bit scary to me. But I'll be interested to see. I mean, Holmes' second time. I don't know how often he's ever pitched in Coors. McGill, he's also pitching in Coors. So, just be careful because we're all trying to find ways to fade the Rockies, but the books know that. So they're hanging really high K-prop numbers for them. The Phillies are in one of those stretches where they can't hit right now. So that's a bit of a concern here. So watch that this weekend in Pittsburgh. Falter today, maybe Andrew Heaney tomorrow, and Mike Burrows on Sunday. So you could probably take advantage of that. The Phillies are one of the streakiest teams when it comes to contact and runs scored in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, they are streaky, just like the Astros. It's very annoying. Yankees kind of too. But okay, Major Matt, let's go. I've got to get to the Yankees-Red Sox game tonight. Thank you for always doing this with me. We'll be continuing to do these videos as long as Matt can't come on the Prop Queen pod while his schedule dictates his life. So we are so grateful for you. Anyway, Matt, we will speak to you next week.
Sounds good.